All right, I think we'll get started. First off, welcome. This is our February 8th training for some new products that are being launched by Enerpac, specifically in our lifting and tools segment. My name's Tim Kelliger. I'll be going through one of the trainings with you. We also have Kurt Huber in the room and Laura Best, who will be going through two of the others. We're pretty excited about the products that we have launching, and we're probably going to see more multi-product launch trainings like this in the future. This is really to just be effective with how we're using your time, and when we ask or when we give a training, that we're really cramming them as full with information as possible. So this week, or today, we're going to be going over the RLT-Series, low-height telescopic cylinders, the LWC-16, which is a lifting wedge with an integral pump, and then two series of Simplex cutters, which we are excited to roll out. Just a few logistical things. We have everybody in mute right now. We'll have everybody in mute until the end of the presentation, when we'll unmute the lines for questions. We will be recording this. The PowerPoint recording, and then a short survey where you can let us know what you thought of this training and maybe voice your opinions on what you think should be included in this, if you think we're missing something in the future. We always appreciate your feedback there. But with that, let's get into the trainings. So a quick agenda. We'll start off with the RLT-Series. I'll be going through that training. Then we'll go through the LWC-16 with Laura, and then the Simplex cutters with Kurt. And for each product, we're going to be going over a few things, just a general structure. So we'll go through the product, an overview, some features and benefits, and how they work. Really kind of answer the question of how to sell these things. So what's the value proposition? What are you going to be selling against? So competitors and substitutes to these products. And then what applications can you see them the most in, and where can you look for opportunities? And lastly, for each one, we'll cover the launch plan, some pricing, and then the marketing materials that are going to be available for each of these launches. So with that, we'll dive into the RLT-Series low-height telescopic cylinders. We're excited to bring these over and launch them. It's going to be another addition to our low-height cylinder offering to fit into collapsed space or low collapsed spaces. So we have 9 models. There's going to be 3 3-stage models and 6 2-stage models. You can see those by the 2 different diagrams in the bottom left there. These products are going to have capacities that range from 4 to 75 tons, which we'll get into on the next slide when we go over some specifications. But in general, how these products work is when you're building pressure, and these are 10,000 PSI cylinders, so they work with all Enerpac standard 10,000 PSI pumps. So when you're building pressure with these, that first stage is the widest, and that's going to extend first. And that stage is going to be able to carry the most weight. So it's going to have the highest capacity and be able to lift the highest tonnage. Then after that builds to a pressure and extends, then the second stage will engage, which will have the middle amount of capacity, the middle amount of tonnage, and then the third stage will extend to the highest stroke, but the lowest capacity. Going into the specifications a bit more, you can see the 3 3-stage models and then the 6 2-stage models. You can see that in this column, I guess the third to the right column, is that first stage capacity where the tonnages are significantly higher than the other second and third stage. And I wanted to run through a quick example of how these cylinders would work. Maybe if you're using the RLT-41, and say you're lifting a 4-ton load up to that 0.91 inches of its maximum stroke. So if you were lifting that 4-ton load, you would first build your pressure up to around 3,000 to 4,000 PSI, and that's where that first stage would extend, and it would reach its max capacity at the 0.43 that you'd see there. Then after that builds up to the 3,000 or 4,000, it would move up to 6,000 or 7,000 psi, where that second stage would be extending until it reaches its max stroke at 0.28 inches, and then after that, that third stage is going to engage, which is going to be that last 0.2 inches, and that would reach about 9,000 psi until it's at the full stroke of the cylinder. But this note at the bottom is really getting to the point of these cylinders and really the value proposition of them, is that these cylinders are going to have slightly higher collapse height than the RSM, but it's going to be fairly similar, but it's really going to have an increased stroke that's available to it, so it can push out further. And then in that first stage and the second stage, it's going to have significantly higher capacity than the RSM cylinders. And one last note is that you can see in the very first column on the left side, each cylinder is rated to a capacity of its lowest stage capacity. So the RLT-40 is rated to a 4.8 ton capacity, and that's the second stage. But then the RLT-41 is rated to that same capacity at the third stage, but the RLT-41 with that three-stage feature in it can lift 26.1 tons in its first stage. So it's slightly deceiving how these are rated, because that first stage is really a powerful lifting tool. Going into some features and benefits, so these are single-acting load return cylinders. Just because of the telescopic design and the collapsed height of them, there's not an opportunity to have that double-acting feature. But the real benefit of these things is that they're low height. So these can fit into confined spaces and have a longer stroke than other products that we have in our portfolio today. So in that confined space, we have the multi-stage capacity of these cylinders. So with that longer stroke, these also have a higher tonnage that will be able to get products moving, and especially in lifting applications, that's very useful to have that higher capacity in the first stage, which I'll get into a little bit later. These are also nitro-carburized cylinders. So these have there's a component that allows it to be enhanced corrosive protection, and it's going to be more durable out in the field. But then it also has properties that will make the metal stronger, and it actually has an increased side load capacity, which is actually at 3% of side load capacity at a full load. Getting into some ease of use, there are mounting bolt holes for easy fixturing of these products, and then all of the cylinders in this range have the CR400 couplers as standard, which interact with a lot of Enerpac standard components. In terms of competition and applications, in terms of competitors, we actually see that alternatives to this product are probably going to be the thing that's competing the most. So the RSM and RCS are both cylinders that sell on collapsed height and stroke, which these are going to fit very similar into that line, where we sell our RSM and RCS, but then we're also going to have the same competitors that we typically have, with Power Team and BVA being two of them, and a lot of other hydraulic players having those low height cylinders. One other company in the Americas region that offers these telescopic cylinders is Hydrofor. They've got 5 models, 10 tons to 100 ton, where we've tested some of their cylinders and we haven't really seen the quality. We don't see them as quite a competitor, and they're one of those ultra low cost alternatives. So we really see that the majority of the competition of these products going out in the field and being specified into applications is going to be with those low height cylinders in the RSM and RCS category. For applications, it's really going to be a lot of low clearance lifts similar to the RSM and RCS. But I did want to highlight 2 applications that we have. So the first that was brought up was for precast concrete forms. So when you're breaking those forms after the concrete is poured and ready to essentially be rolled out of the facility, you need that large force, but just a little bit of stroke to get those forms moving and to break them loose. But then once you get them moving, it's actually much easier to just extend the stroke of the cylinder and continue pushing the rest of the way to break those forms out. So these would be a really good application for that because they have that high first stage capacity. And then that same rule applies to general lifting. Objects at rest are harder to move than objects in motion. So that first stage in lifting applications will really get the product moved or get it whatever you're lifting moving. So that will be a good benefit to these products and how they can be really useful out in the field. So with that, we'll get into the launch plan pricing and marketing materials. We're excited that on Monday, February 25th, we'll be launching this. We'll go live on our website, social media, some email blasts to distributors and some of our end users and end customers. For pricing, there'll be list prices between $800 and $2,800. The 2 versus 3 stage models, there's going to be a price discrepancy there because the 3 stage model has that increased stroke and increased capacity in that first stage. So they're going to be slightly more expensive than the 2 stage. And then standard distributor discounts will apply. In terms of marketing materials, we'll have a technical brochure that should feature all of the technical specifications, a sell sheet that really it boils down this whole training presentation into one page front and back. This training presentation will be available in both the PowerPoint form and a recording. And then we'll have instruction sheets, repair part sheets, product photos, and much more. This will all be available online as well. But with that, we will move into our LWC-16 lifting wedge with integral pump, and I'll pass it over to Laura Best.
All right. Hi, everyone. So Enerpac is introducing an extension to our LW-Series vertical lifting wedge family. This is the LWC-16, or lifting wedge combined. It's a hydraulic lifting wedge with a completely integrated hydraulic hand pump. This new LWC-16 features the same lifting wedge body as our existing LW-16, but while our existing tool is powered by an external hydraulic pump and hose that are purchased separately, this LWC-16 is a completely integral unit that is ready to use straight out of the box. So there's no making or breaking hydraulic connections before setting up on the application. And really it serves as a nice product line extension and really as an alternative option to our existing wedge, but with unique benefits for those who want a more compact and convenient design. So that's where the added value is for this particular product. It provides that convenient way to lift large, heavy loads where floor clearance is limited. So this tool features the lowest collapse height of any of Enerpac's lifting products. It can fit on applications with an access gap as small as 0.39 inches and can lift over up to 2 inches on its own or 2 3/4 inches with the steps block accessory that's included with each purchase. This lifting jaw surface of the wedge, it contains a series of steps, and any of these steps can be used to support the tool's full rated load up to 16 tons. And this unique interlocking wedge design of the LWC-16, it reduces the possibility of the wedge really slipping out from under the load. It prevents bending of the wedge's first step, so giving you that stable vertical lifting motion, but with no slipping off of the application. And then altogether, each unit is only 22 pounds, so it weighs less than all of the required combined pieces that you would need to operate the LW-16. It's also easier to carry around rather than carrying around a wedge, a pump, and a hose separately. So the LWC-16 comes in a complete set. So in addition to the LWC-16 lifting wedge by itself, each order of LWC-16 also comes with all the available lifting wedge accessories, including the SB2 safety block, which is the blocking piece to hold up the lifted loads, the LWB1 steps block, which is useful when you're lifting items that have a larger access gap, since it allows the item to be lifted higher. It also comes with a custom blow molded carrying case. So each of these accessories and tools has its own slot in the case for safe and secure transport across different applications or job sites. So this tool can really be used for a wide variety of applications where you have that limited clearance space. So lifting and lowering heavy equipment, machine maintenance and alignment, or installation into disassembly. So think heavy pieces such as like pumps, motors, generators, anything that needs to be raised or lowered, but there's not enough space to fit in a more traditional, like low-height hydraulic cylinder. So our existing LW16 and this new LWC16, they're not meant to be competing products. They both feature the same lifting wedge design, but the LWC16 has its own unique differentiating features that have added value for different end users. So the key benefits for the LWC16 is that compact design. It's more maneuverable, and its compact size versus an external pump and hose. It allows it to fit in more constrained spaces when you're lifting. The setup on the application is faster since it's an integrated unit. You don't need to make or break any hydraulic connections in order to operate the tool. And also, since it's an integral unit in field, you can use the LWC16 underwater if you have any potential subsea applications. And then, of course, there's that convenient carrying case that adds the additional value to the overall package. One thing to note, of course, is that operating the LWC16 does require you to be physically closer to the lifting application than the LW16 does, which is definitely something you need to consider whenever you're deciding between the two lifting wedge products.
Thanks, Laura. So this product will also be launching on Monday, February 25th, along with the RLT low-height telescopic cylinders. So with that, it'll have a similar kind of go-live package with being on the website, social media, email blasts. So if you need any literature or demo requests, I would encourage you to contact your TM for these February 25th launch dates. They'll have availability for that, and we're actually really excited to be able to launch a few products at once. For pricing, this LWC16 will be list priced at $3,559. It's going to be slightly higher than the LW16 due to the fact that you don't need any of those other system components, so you don't need a pump, hose, or gauge, and it's all there in that one compact carrying case that Laura was discussing. And with this, with that list price, standard distributor discounts are going to apply. In terms of marketing materials, it's going to be slightly less than the RLT just because of the more simplistic nature of this launch, and that it's really only one product or one model number. So we'll have a technical brochure that will feature the LW16 and the LWC16 and highlight some of the benefits of each. We'll have this training presentation and recording, instruction sheets and repair part sheets, product photos, and more. This will all be available online as well. So with that, we're really excited to get these going. And we will pass it over to our last, so the third of three trainings that we have today, which will be the Simplex cutters. So I'll pass it over to Kurt.
Thanks, Tim. Hello, everybody. Great to be here with you today. I've got an exciting message to bring about new cutters that we're going to be introducing. If hopefully you can see the slide well, we've got two different series of cutters pictured there. If you look to the left, you'll see wire and cable cutters. If you look to the right, you'll see chain cutters. Today we'll be going over what these tools are, what they do, what they're used for, what's good about them. We call that our value add proposition, and then Tim's going to be going over our launch package and pricing and support and marketing communication information and things like that. So as we look to the next slide, we see two pictures. On the left, we see our new wire and cable cutters, our HCC-Series wire and cable cutters. You can see a picture there over the tools of a wire and a wire rope. And so those are the types of materials that these tools are designed to cut. If you look to the right, you'll see our chain cutters. And so these tools are designed specifically for cutting various grades of chains. And we'll be getting more into the applications and the different grades of chains and the types of materials a little bit later. But at this point, I'd like to just give you a brief overview of these tools. So again, two different tool types, but within each of these tool types, we've got 3 versions that are coming out. And you can see those 3 versions on the pictures. So some of the tools that you see have a handle, an integrated handle attached to them. Those tools are great for lower volume applications. It's a complete package, doesn't require an external pump or hose or anything like that. Then we have our single acting tools, which do work with an external standard 10,000 psi hydraulic pump and system. These tools feature a spring return cylinder, and so once you activate that blade after the cut's made, the spring return takes the blade back and positions you for the next cut. And then last but not least, we have our double acting cylinder version of these tools. And those tools are great for those heavy duty applications where you're going into something thick or heavy duty and you need to power that blade closed, but then you also need to power it open. And so 3 different versions for each of these tool types. Next slide, please. So getting into our HCC-Series cable and wire cutters, what are these things used for? These tools are great solutions for cutting things like communication cables. So, for example, the types of cables that you have inside of buildings that carry currents from one area to the next. They're used for utility cables, such as underground cables, or you can use them for cutting wire rope, like, for example, a 6x19 wire rope, which is very, very commonly used for multiple purposes. And we'll get a bit into that a little bit more in a moment. But that's just the overview of what these are used for. What are they not used for? They're not designed for cutting those very, very heavy-duty pre-stressed steel strands. If you do have a need for something like that, do reach out to us. We can work with you to find a solution, but that's not what these tools are designed for, not the standard ones. Next slide, please. So this is an example of what you can use these tools for. It's a focus application of 6x19 wire rope. Folks, you've probably seen these wire ropes out there. They're used for a lot of different multi-purpose applications in a lot of different industries. You've probably seen them on winch lines or hoist ropes, trolley lines, and the like. They come in a lot of different sizes. So if you look all the way to the left, I know the writing is a little bit small, but these types of wire ropes are often seen in sizes that go up to, say, 1.5 inches. Of course, there are larger wire ropes as well for various purposes. But in terms of the volumes of wire ropes that we see out there being used, most commonly we see sizes that are about 1.5 inches and smaller, and 1.5 inches is already a pretty good sized wire rope. And so if you look to the center of the slide, see here, you'll see the various proposed solutions that we have. You don't have to remember all the writing on the slide. What the slide is intended to convey is simply that we've got a solution here, a nice Simplex solution for all these different types of wire ropes. There are wire ropes, the very large heavy-duty ones, say larger than a 2¼ inch wire ropes, that are simply beyond the application range of these Simplex tools. However, we do have an answer for those applications, but it's not a Simplex answer. So do reach out to us. We do have Enerpac solutions for those applications. Next slide, please. Here's another example of what you can use these tools for, and this is just a standard specification for building cables used in any given building, a commercial building, industrial building. They carry electrical currents to all external uses of power in a building. And so any given building you walk into will have cables like these, and you're likely to see piles of cables sitting around when you enter into these industrial or commercial buildings. And how are we going to cut them? Well, a great solution is, of course, our Simplex cutters. Again, a lot of writing here with the specification. Don't worry about remembering all of that. The idea here is that you understand these typical specifications. Building cables typically go up to about 1.5 inches, and we've got a Simplex solution for any given building cable that you will encounter. Okay? Next slide, please. All right. So for those of you who have been working with us for a while, you might be aware that in addition to the cutters that we're talking about today, we also sell some Enerpac hydraulic cutters. Now, in addition to those Enerpac cutters, we're also going to be introducing a new line of premium Enerpac cutters. These cutters are beyond the scope of our discussion today, but I just want you to be aware of them because they are coming, and you need to understand how you position the one versus the other. So given the tools that we have today, these Enerpac cutter heads, which are in the center column, comparing those to the new Simplex line, what I want you to understand is this. The Simplex line offers a very broad range of applications. Okay? So, for example, wire and rope cutters, Simplex versus Enerpac. You can go all the way to 2.36 inches with the new Simplex line. The Enerpac cutter heads are a bit more limited. They go up to about 1.25 inches. Tonnage, again, same thing. Simplex line goes up to 44 tons. Enerpac line goes up to about 20 tons. So what we mean to say here is that, hey, we can cover a very broad range of applications with this Simplex line. Okay? From a price standpoint, the Simplex is positioned to be our very price competitive tool. And on the opposite scale here, you have the premium Enerpac all the way to the right that are still coming and we'll be introducing to you soon. Those are going to be our premium line, and they're going to be offering additional features and benefits, and they're by and large self-contained units, and they're priced appropriately. So what are these great for? Simplex has a solution for a very broad range of applications. Simplex offers a solution for a larger range of our currently existing Enerpac cutter heads. However, Enerpac is the premium solution, and those tools we'll be introducing to you in the near future. Okay. Moving on to our chain cutters. So far, we've been spending quite a bit of time talking about wire and rope cutters. Now we're going to talk about chain cutters. At this time, we don't sell other chain cutters, so this is something that's completely new for you. Simplex HCC-Series chain cutters. They're great for cutting heavy-duty industrial chain. It's a good, fast, simple, and safe way to cut industrial chain. Typically, we see these used on grades up to grades 80 or even grade 100, cutting chains with lengths that are up to 1.5 inches in diameter. So some very, very heavy-duty chains here. As with the wire and rope cutters, we've got the version with the integral pump. We've got the version that has a spring return on it, and then we have the version with the double-acting cylinder. In addition to the versions that you see, if you have special needs, we offer, of course, our custom team can take these tools and offer things like optional shielding, and we've done that already for customers and that had specific needs for that type of shielding. So do reach out to us if you have a need that you don't see in our communications package. Tim? So let's talk a little bit about chain. There are several grades of chain which we typically see out there in the marketplace, from grades 30 up to grade 120. They come in these big barrels, and I know a lot of you know this already, but they come in these big barrels that you see to the right. and typically for general purpose applications such as towing or securing loads, we're going to see anything from a grade 30 up to a grade 70. When we get into grade 80, those chains are used specifically for overhead lifting. So grade 80 is a heavy-duty chain used for overhead lifting. So if you have a customer that sells into that market or that is active in that market, you'll probably see them using grade 80 or perhaps using grade 100. So grade 100 is starting to become a more popular solution, heavy-duty solution for overhead lifting. Our Simplex tools are great for cutting all of these different types of chains. The sizes that each one can cut and the grade range will be indicated on our communication materials. If you have a question, of course, you have a very specific need and you're not certain, please do call us and we'll do our best to work with you. There's another chain out there, grade 120. It's a super premium, super high-strength alloy steel. It's not nearly as common as these other types of chains. We don't really have testing using these solutions with that grade of chain at this point. I just want to send out a warning, as it were. This is something that we have not tested at this point. I don't know how these tools would function or how they would work with that super premium chain. Again, if you have a special need, do reach out to us. We don't see that chain used very often. I've not seen it used, but you may have. But just be aware that the typical use range is from the grade 30 to the grade 100. Next slide, please. Okay, let's think about this a little bit. When we're cutting wire ropes, when we're cutting cables, when we're cutting chains, how is this normally done? So for you folks that have been out there working with customers that do these jobs, you probably see them using solutions like angle grinders with cutoff blades. Or if they are not using an angle grinder, chances are they're using a torch. Okay, so these are the most common solutions that we see people using on these applications. So there are good and bad things about those solutions. Let's talk about that for a moment. When you're using an angle grinder with a cutoff blade or a similar type of saw with a cutoff blade, what's great about that? Well, it's fairly quick and it's fairly low cost. However, anybody that's ever used one of these angle grinders with a cutoff blade knows that they tend to be a bit hazardous. Those blades don't last very long, and once they go, they tend to fly apart, and you can have blade particles flying throughout the air. You also have a stream of sparks wherever you're using these things, and that stream of sparks, of course, does not speak to safety, right? So it's a quick and dirty solution. It's fairly low cost, but you're using typically abrasive cutoff blades that don't last very long, and it's not a very safe solution. If you're not using an angle grinder, again, torches. Why do people use torches? Well, a lot of times they may have a torch available already, and so that's an at-hand solution. It's not a very fast solution, especially if you're cutting through thicker material. It can take quite a while. From a health and safety standpoint, you've got that heat from the torch blowing back at you all the time when you're using it, so it's not a very user-friendly solution. And hey, when you're cutting, let's say you're cutting a heavy-duty chain with that, that torch might not only cut the chain that you're intending to cut, but it can impact the material around the material you're trying to cut, meaning the quality of the cut is not very good. So health and safety concerns, quality concerns, and it's not very fast. So what does our Simplex solution bring to the table? From a health and safety standpoint, it's great. From a user-friendly standpoint, it's great. You pull the trigger, the blade closes, the material is cut within an instant, no debris flying around, you've got no you've got no flame blowback. So it's a very nice solution for the user, great from a health and safety standpoint. These tools are going to last you for a long time. The blades are replaceable. If the blade gets dull, of course, you can just replace that blade. And so there are a lot of advantages to using these solutions. Of course, there is a cost outlay associated with these tools. But, of course, the answer to that is these tools can be used for years on end. unlike some of these other solutions. Thank you. Next slide. So just wrapping this up, when would you use a Simplex cutter compared to some of these other solutions, or compared to, let's say, even an Enerpac cutter that we sell today? Think about applications, for example, that have limited access to power, or where you have very limited volume of cuts to make. That is a great application for our integrated pump version of the tool. You don't need a hose, you don't need a pump. It's a self-contained system. It's manual. If you only have a few cuts to make that you need to make once in a while, it's a great solution. What about if you have a very high volume application? So just the opposite. You've got lots and lots of cuts to make. Would you want to use a solution that takes a lot of time or is not very safe? No. Would you want to use a solution that is not designed for high-duty cutting? No. These Simplex solutions are a great solution when you have a large amount of cuts to make if you're using the version that works with an external pump. Why is that? It's because you've got a nice pump with a nice large reservoir with lots of hydraulic fluid, which enables you to make cuts, very high volume cuts over a longer period of time. Great in production applications. Okay? Next solution, or next situation, let's say you're in a price competitive situation and let's say maybe your customer already has a 10,000 PSI pump that he's using for something else. The Simplex solution is a great price competitive solution compared to some of the other solutions in the market. It's priced very competitively, and if they already have the pump, of course, you don't have to make that additional investment as well. So I hope that gives you a good solution or a good idea of when these tools are used in which situations and how you position them against some of these other solutions that you might be selling from Enerpac or from Simplex. So now Tim's going to take it away with our launch planning and launch material.
Thanks, Kurt. So one of the reasons why this is such an exciting product is this is the first new product that we've launched in the Simplex line in quite a while. And I'd just like to say that first, it's good to be able to introduce a new product to this line, and that you can also look for much more coming in the Simplex line in the future, so you can always keep an eye out for that. So this launch will happen on Monday, March 21st. Similar to the other launches, going live on the website, social media, email blasts to end customers and distributors. In terms of pricing, there's quite a range on the chain cutter side, where Kurt was talking about how the chain cutters go up to that 1.5" diameter chain. So you're going to see quite the variance here, from $3,500 to around $14,000 for the chain cutters. And then on the wire and cable side, the list prices of these are going to be $1,900 to about $3,400. Where standard discounts are going to apply on the Simplex side for these products. But we're actually really excited about where these are positioned and where they fell in the pricing of these, that they're very price competitive tools in our market. For marketing materials, the technical brochure will definitely be produced. We're just wrapping that up now. We'll have a sell sheet, which again was just really the training presentation, knocking out those points of how to sell this against competition, where to see opportunities for it and applications, and what the real value proposition of these tools are. That's all going to be found in that sell sheet. Training presentation, PowerPoint, and the recording will be sent out. Instruction sheets, repair part sheets, and product photos. So we're pretty excited about the comprehensive launches that we have planned. So to get to the end of this, first I'd like to say thank you. Thanks to Kurt and Laura for presenting as well. So this was a training of 3 product lines that we're launching, 2 of them in February, 1 of them in March. So there's the RLT, the LWC16, those are both launching February 25th, and then the Simplex cutters on March 21st. For quotes, demos of these products, and more information, I would recommend reaching out to your local Enerpac territory manager. And if you don't know yours, you can actually go online and find their contact information to get in touch. With that, I just appreciate everybody coming out. We'll now unmute the lines, but this is the end of our formal presentation, but we'll open the lines for questions.
The conference has been unmuted.
All right, so are there any questions on the line?
Yeah, this is Dave Oak with Pickford. Is the Enerpac or is the Equalizer International line going to be absorbed into the Enerpac line?
So that's a little outside the scope of this, but I'll answer it anyway. But good question, very good question. We will not be absorbing it. This LWC16 was actually part of the Equalizer product line, but since it fits more in that lifting application, we're bringing it over to the Enerpac side of our business, which is much more lifting oriented, lifting, lowering, and positioning. But the Equalizer line will actually be its own brand within the Enerpac portfolio, which those are much more focused on the bolting tools and oil and gas work.
So
and of course across a lot of other industries.
So you're moving the lifting wedge from Equalizer International over to the Enerpac, or there's going to be one in Equalizer and one in Enerpac?
Just in Enerpac.
Just in Enerpac, okay.
Yep.
Great.
Good question.
Thanks.
Anything else? All right. Well, with that, I appreciate everybody coming out. We're going to end our presentation, and hopefully you can get more information from your territory managers, and we can start selling these and start growing our business together.